Welcome to Rewatch and Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each episode against each other. Today's episode is Merlin Season 4, Episode 7, Lamia. The episode in a nutshell is a brief reminder of what happens in the episode. So with this episode, we begin at a small village, and one of the village chiefs or one of the village residents, I'm not really sure where his position is in the hierarchy, but essentially, he goes out to check because he notices like a presence, and then he finds a villager falling over ill. We then see his wife, Mary, going to Camelot where she greets Gwen, whom she has a prior relationship with, and basically comes to beg help because multiple men in their village have fallen ill and they don't know what the illness is and they don't have a physician in the village. So they, of course, go to Gaius. Gaius, however, has a bit of a sweating sickness issue on his hands, so he can't go, but he suggests that they send Merlin, who's been his apprentice now for several years, and so he believes even if Merlin cannot cure the villagers, he can at least accurately gather and then report back on the symptoms that they're experiencing so that Gaius then can diagnose and assist. So Merlin is sent off with some knights and Gwen. And when he gets there, he initially tries to heal one of the men with magic, realizes it doesn't work, and that there is potentially sorcery at play. This then leads to them needing to go back to Camelot in order to report this to Gaius and Arthur. However, on the way, they happen upon what looks like a bandit encampment, and the knights get into a fight, and Percival saves a woman who is in that encampment. And she basically, because she is Lamia, she has mind control powers, and so she basically starts to corrupt all of the knights into following what she wants them to do, and what she wants them to do is to take her to a particular castle in the area. So instead of going to Camelot, the knights veer off, even though Merlin, because he's immune due to his magic, and Gwen, because she's a woman, are saying, we need to go to Camelot. The knights are basically like, we're the boss of you, we're stronger than you, we are in charge, we are going to take Lamia home. And then on the way, Elian ends up attacked because part of the Lamia's skill is that she's able to not only take over and corrupt the minds of men, but if she embraces men, she can also drain them of their life force. So she does that to Elian in the woods, which gives a sense of an emergency. So now they're really double timing it over to the castle. Gwen uses pieces of her dress to leave a trail for anybody who may follow them because she also knows that something is wrong with Lamia, which at first she wasn't as sure as Merlin was, but after her brother was attacked, then she was fully on his side. Something was wrong with Lamia. They arrive at the castle, Lamia disappears, and basically the knights are very mean to Merlin because he doesn't like Lamia because he can actually sense the truth. And so they basically make him and Gwen stay with Elian while they go out and hunt. Once none come back, Merlin then goes out to try to find them, finds Gawain, also unconscious. Percival then manages to find Lamia as Leon comes up behind him, but then Leon sees him be attacked and his life force drained. That breaks whatever Lamia's spell is. Leon tries to attack. He, of course, is no match for her magic. She throws him into a wall and he ends up, well, actually multiple walls, and he ends up unconscious. That's when Merlin and comes up on them, and he attacks her with a sword, which then doesn't kill her, but reveals her true form, which is monstrous. And that's when Gwen arrives, sees the monster, and then her and Merlin fight off the monster, and that's when Arthur and his team, who had been tracking them through the woods this whole time, arrive and see the monster, and they are saved. Now that the Lamia is completed, or not completed, but defeated, Gaius is able to complete an antidote, and he provides that to the knights and the villagers, and happy ending. So now that we've been reminded about what happened in the episode, we'll now rank the episode. As always, we'll be ranking on our mostly objective ranking list. followed by the personal ranking list. So to start with, we have our single episode supporting character introductions, and this is 1 point for Lamia, and then 1 point for Mary and John Howden because they are a married couple and they are the villagers who knew Gwen and went to Camelot. Then we have our multi-season main character development, which is that Merlin is given the responsibility of acting as a physician to this village due to his involvement being an apprentice of sorts to Gaius for many years. So it gives him a status slightly beyond servant, hence why it is development. And that is 4 points. And then we have another 4 points for the world building element, which is the introduction of the Lamia, which is a creature of magic that Gaia says is created by high priestesses by mingling the blood of a girl and a serpent together. And then, of course, we have her powers, which she can control the minds of men and suck the life away from men with a single embrace, which is what she does end up doing throughout the episode. Bringing us up to 10, however, I did take 2 points for the negative messaging or behavior because while the knights were under the influence, they were really mean to Merlin and also Gwen as well. And they went on a bit of a power trip and it was just unsightly. So I did take 2 points for it, but I do acknowledge that they were under the influence of a magical creature at the time that they were being mean, and that is not who they truly are. But it also is a fact that not one of them showed any signs at all of even attempting to fight the control, which I am sure probably they could have, because most mind controls, if you have a strong enough will, you can, well, I don't know about in Merlin universe, but in pretty much every other universe where there is mind control powers, if you have a strong will, you are able to put up some defense or some delayment of the mind control. If you try, none of them even tried, so I'm still taking the points. But that leaves us with an 8 out of 10. And so our mostly objective ranking so far has The Darkest Hour in first, followed by The Wicked Day, A Servant of Two Masters, Athusa. This episode came in 5th, Lamia. Then we have The Secret Sharer and his father's son. From a personal ranking, I didn't think that the episode was terrible, but I did think it was unfortunate that the knights were mean to Merlin. Merlin did get some extra responsibility, which was nice. But I feel like a lot of the time of the episode was spent with tracking and traveling, so it wasn't as entertaining as some of the other episodes were. I also felt like, in a sense, it gave me Freya vibes, like back in the first season when Merlin first meets Freya and falls in love with her, and then she turns out to be a magical creature, and then the creature attacks and then ends up getting killed. In a broad sense, minus the falling in love with her portion, it's pretty much felt like a bit of a repeat of the Freya arc as well, except Freya was actually likable and Merlin fell in love with her, so there was more of like an emotional attachment to her, whereas with the Lamia, the knights are falling in love, but it's a corruption caused by magic, not a genuine love like Merlin's was. And yes, she does turn into a creature and attacks and is destroyed in the end, so basically like one minor difference, and it's, oh, and it doesn't take place in Camelot, but outside of it. So 2 minor differences, but ultimately I felt like it was a very similar plot line, and therefore that kind of took away some of the entertainment value as well, because it felt like we're just going back to something we've already done. But there were a couple of funny moments. My favorite moment from this particular episode was when Merlin's in the village, he notices something moving outside the window, and because he's already determined that something supernatural or something magic related may be going on, he decides to grab the nearest object he can and go out and confront it. And of course, it ends up being Gawain who is going to the washroom, and he basically tells Gawain he could have killed him, and then Green looks at what he's holding and it ends up being a fishing rod. So I thought that was amusing. And then we, of course, have Gwen in this episode with coming along because she knew the villagers, which is the only reason she was there, and I'm not really even sure why she went back to the village with them, honestly, because, like I said, like, she knew the villagers from her past, true, but, like, she's not the physician. He had the knights for protection. I'm not really sure why she was there, but it did allow for plot purposes, such as Merlin getting a endorsement from her at the start when the village is like, why is this boy here instead of the physician? And then, of course, women are immune to the Lamia as well, so Merlin had at least one person on his side. So, ultimately, I liked the episode, but there were some flaws with it. Not all of them within control, like obviously they're retreading ground. It is slightly different, but very similar storyline. I gave it a 7. I gave it a 7. So, that brings our list to A Servant of Two Masters in first, The Darkest Hour, The Wicked Day, Athusa, The Secret Sharer. This episode I put in 6th, Lamia, and then 7th is His Father's Son. Which brings us now to the series ranking so far. On our mostly objective ranking, we have Season 2 in first place with 70.83%, Season 3 in second at 70%, Season 1 at 69.23%, and Season 4 so far has a score of 58 out of a possible 110. Meanwhile, on the personal ranking side, Season 3 is in first with 72.73%, Season 2 in second with 70.83%, Season 1 is in third with 66.92%, and then Season 4 is currently having a score of 55 out of a possible 110. But with that, we've now rewatched and ranked Merlin Season 4, Episode 7, Lamia. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.